What's up everyone? Today we are painting the Abominabunny from Zombicide's Green Horde. And he comes out of the Horde box and he is by far the smallest miniature that I've ever painted. I didn't really follow the artwork that they give you for the Abominabunny. I did it a little differently, and I also did my first ever sculpting. Now it was a very simple cone shape to make a carrot, but you know what? I'm still proud of it. So let's get down to the table and I'll show you how I did them. Alright, so here we go with the Abominabunny, and he is in all white primer. No need for Zenithal in this one. He's very simple. You're not going to notice the difference anyway. Doing something a little different, instead of ending with basing, I'm going to start with basing because I really want something very special with this guy. I also think it's going to be very difficult to do this type of basing after you've already painted him. Basically, I'm taking my texture paste and I'm going to create two little mounds. One on his left side, one on his right side, both running the length of the base. So after I've created those two little mounds, I will come back and in the other areas, I will make sure that there is some of this basing material, but much flatter and thinner of a layer than those two mounds. And the reason we're doing that is I am creating a little farm for him to be in. So I'm using some green stuff. This is not liquid green stuff. This is the regular green stuff from Army Painter. Sorry for the earthquake that is happening with my camera as I cut this thing. But all you got to do is cut a little bit out and then you roll it together between your fingers to mix the blue and the yellow. And you know, as you are all painters, that when you mix blue and yellow you get green. So you have to mix it for a while until it's a very even tone of green. And once you get that, what I'm going to do with it is roll it into this pointed cylinder, basically a cylinder with points on each end, and then I'm going to cut this in half. You can probably already figure out what I'm making here. So after I cut it in half, I then flatten the end and I've made a cone out of it. Well, you definitely know what I'm making because I talked about it in the intro. But there it is. That's my carrot. I'm going to let it dry now. And it does take a little while to dry. So to do the farmland, I'm starting with Agrax Earthshade to do a very dark brown color. And you want to make sure that this gets on all around the base of the bunny. Even though it's got white fur, do not worry whether you're painting him white or you're painting him a different, a different color. You still want to make sure that this pools around him to create a little bit of a shadow. So once you've got that, I use P3's Umbral Umber, real dark brown, and I'm doing a heavy dry brush of this. Make sure that your wash and your basing material is completely dry. If it's even a little bit wet, this is going to turn into a mess. So don't allow that to happen. Give your stuff plenty of time to dry. Work on another model if you want to, it doesn't matter, but let this stuff dry. So as you can see here, I'm doing sort of a heavy dry brush to really make sure that there is no white left over. Now I'm coming back with flat brown from Vallejo's model color, and that flat brown I'm going to do the same exact thing but slightly lighter. And really it's not lighter in how much I'm pushing, it's lighter in how quickly I'm moving. So I'm not spending as much time, I'm not trying to color it all in. As soon as I kind of notice that the color has changed a little bit, I move on. And then our final dry brush is going to be some khakis from Vallejo Game Color. And I'm focusing this on the top of each of those mounds and then the very front and back of the flat area, so that there's just a little bit of a highlight in the front, a little bit of a highlight in the rear, and that's really it. With that, the base is now done. So we're now going to grab some wolf gray. This is a very light gray color, and anywhere that you want the rabbit to be white, I suggest that you start with a very light gray as the undertone. Now you could paint the entire rabbit gray, but here's a little secret. When I was growing up, I had a rabbit named Oreo, and he was black and white, so I am going to model this rabbit after Oreo. So my rabbit here is going to be black and white, and what I'm doing is I'm painting a white patch on his chest, and then a white stripe down the center of his forehead. Next up, I'm using ivory, and I'm going to use ivory as the white tone. So I'm painting in the center of the gray stripe, doing even a smaller stripe in that, making sure that some of the gray is still there. And anywhere that like the eyebrow ridge you can see there is not being painted. And then also on the chest you can see a natural like dividing line of where the shadow is. And you want to leave everything below that shadow in gray. Now I have Vallejo's model color Ivory. Or not Ivory, I apologize. Ivory was the last color, it's white. And then with the white, this is very bright, and you can't really notice that Ivory isn't white until you put white next to it. Then you can really see how white is. And I'm using this to highlight. So I'm doing the eyebrow ridge. There's a little tuft of hair in the center of his forehead, then right above his nose, and then each of the tufts of hair on his, or the tufts of fur on his chest. So I'm not painting the whole chest, just picking out the little raised bits with the white. I'm also taking this time to use the white to paint all of his teeth. We're going to use some shade to bring out the definition of his teeth, but make sure that this is thinned down. Even though if you've primed the model in white, you're going to feel like this is not necessary. I guarantee you it's necessary. You want a nice even color, and you're not going to get that even color if you're using a primer as your color. I'm also taking this time to paint in the eyes. Not the full eyes, we'll do the black later, but right now the white. So here's the Agrax Earth shade. Already had it out, so I just used this as the dark brown to shade in the teeth. Now like I said, the teeth do not have a ton of detail on them. Some of them are very well formed, some of them aren't. And so if you spray on too much primer, or if you use too much wash like there is on the right hand side right now, you got to come back and suck that all up. Make sure that it's only a small amount is on his teeth. I'm then going to come back with white after the wash has dried, and I'm picking out the teeth, just trying to pretty much draw a straight line down the center of each tooth. And that's really about it. It doesn't take much more than that to really give the illusion of the teeth. Because you're not going to see this model very close to your face, so you don't have to worry about it not looking perfect. Using squid pink here for the inside of his ears. Now if you want to, you could add a little bit of white to this pink and then paint another layer on top, giving you, you know, a couple different layers and some highlights within the ear. And then paint the pink on his nose. Now I also use the pink with some white mixed in to do his gum line around the teeth. And I didn't show that, I should have, but I did that off camera. Now we're moving into the full color of the model. And here I am using Vallejo model color black, so it's just pure black, and I'm going to paint the entire rabbit in this black, other than the spots obviously that we painted white or pink. Be very careful around the ears, and be very careful around this stripe in the center of his head, and then also the eyes that you've already painted. But this black is going to allow you to shape the eyes the way that you want them, so that is very helpful. So now you can go around and make sure that the eyes are the right shape on both sides. I took the opportunity as well to use the black to go and draw my line around the base, because I base all of the models from Zombicide in black. Not base, but you know what I mean, the perimeter of the base. I'm also painting in the pupil with black, which is a good time to do this. I found this is probably the best eyes I've ever made, and that's because I was able to just work on them, and then if I didn't like them, I could just use the black, go around, and it worked out perfectly. Here's German gray. German gray is a very, very dark gray. You could also add a little gray to your black and work in the opposite direction, but I just decided to use German gray. And this is the first time I've ever painted a model that is predominantly a black color, so I am learning how to highlight black. And what I was thinking is that usually when you look at an animal that's black, they're actually really shiny in certain areas. If you're looking at like the top of their head, or when they're sitting down, if it's a dog, you know, their haunches, their legs, where they're sitting down, those are usually really bright. So I went around all of the raised portions and treated it like it was any other color, with German gray being the new color that we're going to. And now I'm using wolf gray, the same gray that we used to undertone the white, to actually be my top highlight. Now I didn't use it pure, I mixed it into the German gray. But I'm doing this in a pretty focused way, right on the back of his back, the lower portion of his back. Right where you can already see that it's pretty bright. I just brighten it up in a bit of a smaller spot there. Over his legs, the top of his tail, and of course the top of his ears. By brightening the ridges over his eyes, it also made him look a little angrier, which was great. And I really think that that came out well. So I hope that if I did this on a larger model, it would turn out just as well. Now we're ready for the carrot. So the carrot needs to be completely dry before you start. And what you want to start with is a red color. So I'm just using Vallejo Model Colors flat red. And I'm going to paint 2 coats of red on the carrot. You're saying, aren't carrots orange? Yes, of course they're orange. But they also have like this red undertone to them. So by doing this, it really makes it look like a cartoon bright carrot to go along with this cartoon silly rabbit, because even though the rabbit is evil, he does sort of look like a cartoon, especially with those big old eyes. Now I'm using clear orange. Now clear orange is a very thin version of orange. Orange and yellow are both very thin pigments. It's kind of hard to find a opaque orange or yellow. So I go around with a single coat of this. Now you're going to put on a bunch of other colors after this, so don't worry. The red will pretty much completely get covered up, but you want that red to influence the orange, and it's not going to if you put a ton of orange coats on. So I just did a single coat of pure clear orange. Now to the clear orange, I'm going to start adding white. And I used my wet palette and fanned out the orange so that I had a few different shades. And now starting with the darkest shade of orange and white mixture, I'm just doing some hash lines. So I'm going right across the top with a very small thin brush and very lightly drawing some hash lines across them. Then I'm continuing them down the sides so that about 2/3 of the carrot are covered. You can also see how useful a cork in a hobby holder is. It is really great for things like this. If you don't have a hobby holder, I suggest that you look into one. You might not like it, but I've found it really awesome. So what I've continued to do is lighten the colors, so each time you see I'm going over with a brighter version of orange. And now finally, after I've done about 4 layers of brighter oranges, I now am coming in with black. And this one I'm going to be very particular about where I put the lines. So I don't want to really do hash lines, I'm just trying to do a thin line, and I'm trying to be very light about it. And I'm drawing in about 3 lines, and that's it, and that'll be enough. And I want to continue them down even further than the highlights that I did. All that's left now is for us to finish up the base, and I'm using my huge miniatures tufts that are in fertile grass tufts. They are a dark green color. They're very pretty, and I'm going to have a review of these up soon. These just got delivered from the Kickstarter. What I'm doing is pulling off 8 of them, so 4 for each side. And I'm using some super glue. I like Gorilla brand super glue. If you're wondering what kind is really good to use, I really like this brand, but you could use whatever you like, and always use tweezers to put on your grass tufts. And I am putting them in a row very close together to look like carrots on a farm. So you just want to push them in just a little bit. You don't want to push too hard and start destroying all the work that you've done. Even though it's mostly dry, you're going to notice that no matter how dry it gets, it always feels like it might break in half at any moment. So just be careful with it. So then I did the exact same thing to the other side. Then I took some super glue, put it in the front, glued down my carrot, and glued a little tuft of grass on the end of the carrot, and here he is. I think that looks pretty freaking cool. I don't know about you. I hope you like it. I'm impressed with myself. I thought I did a really good job, so I hope that you guys agree. This was a pretty short one in comparison to some of the other ones that have been coming out lately. But thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more Zombicide Green Horde or any of the other awesome games that are coming out and that I have ready to paint. And I will see you all next time.